Awesome. So today I am being joined by Joey Debenedetto. Joey, you're one of my favorite people, and you're also the team leader here at Cupertino, as well as the team leader at Palo Alto. So I wanted to spend a few minutes with you, do a little bit of interviewing you, um, and get to know you a little bit because I know you very well. You and I go back about a year and a half now, and there's a lot of people out there that really don't know you all that well. So tell us a little bit about who you are. I mentioned that you're the team leader here at Cupertino and Palo Alto, but give us a little bit more background about you. And
Sure.
I could,
I moved to California from New York City. I got my college degree in musical theater, so I have a bachelor's of fine arts in singing, dancing, and acting, which is hilarious because I'm not doing any of those three things. Um, but I moved to New York after college to sort of pursue a career in musical theater to be a star. And I did that for a hot minute and I was successful. And as I guess you would call anybody who is successful, I mean, I had consistent work. I was touring internationally. I made, people paid me for me to do those things. But I really just sort of got uh, fed up. I met a girl and I fell in love, and I was making $400 a week as like the lead role in a big show with my name above the title and like union contracts and everything you say you want. And my sublet in New York, that was outside of New York, and my sublet in New York fell through, and it was $1,600 a month in New York, and I was making, sorry, I was making $500 a week. I was making $2,000 a month, and my sublet was $1,600, and I had $400 to my name per month, and I was like, there's just got to be something better. Um, I can't even afford to take care of myself, let alone somebody who I say I care about.
right. So you had like enough money to breathe.
Barely, like, yeah, very short, shallow breaths. And and so I watched Million Dollar Listing in New York, and I was like, I could do that. I've been literally selling my soul for the past couple of years. Like, well, there's no difference in selling real estate. So my girlfriend at the time paid for me to get my real estate license, paid for me to get the real estate book. And I got my license in about 2 months. It was a 75-hour course. You take two tests. I passed both tests right away, and I was a licensed agent that didn't know anything about anything. And I thought my whole life was going to change, and it did over time, but I didn't make a single penny for 6 months, like not 1 cent. I was building people's IKEA furniture for money in the evening. So I was at Century 21. I would go to the office from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I was assisting a real estate broker there. I was sort of doing like, I was licking envelopes and stamps and, prepping mailers and doing all sort of this grunt work for her for free and trying to like listen and learn. And then I'd go build IKEA bookshelves and dressers and beds and all that. There's nothing worse than trying to put together an IKEA drawer. Like that is the bane of my existence. And so, and then it sort of clicked that nobody was waiting for me to arrive. Nobody was waiting once I got my license, nobody was like, oh, thank God, now I'm ready to buy or sell real estate. So, and all my friends were poor actors. So I had to make a shift. I had to like, my actor friends aren't going to give me what I want. And me waiting around isn't going to get it. So I started to join like business networking groups and passive income groups. Like I joined the Classic Car Club of New York. I joined the MoMA. I joined like the Metropolitan Museum of Art, just to like surround myself with people who had a lot of money that they were spending on frivolous things. And slowly but surely it started picking up, and I did my first sale for 1.6 million, and I made a check for 25,000, and I was like, I did it. Like I quit everything. I'm only doing real estate, like musical
I'm the
theater.
best that ever lived.
Yes, exactly. I got that listing in the stupidest way possible, so unethical. I didn't even know because no one was teaching ethics. I had a rental exclusive. It was my first rental exclusive. This couple came in and said, oh, we really like this, but we have to sell our property before we can rent this. And of course I was like, bing, 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 bing. I was like, well, why don't you let me sell it? And they're like, oh, well, we already have an agent. And I was like, well, why hasn't it sold? And they were like, well, we don't know, but we don't really like our agent. And I was like, okay, well, then you should use me. And they said, well, what are you going to do differently? I didn't know anything about their apartment, nothing about who they were, nothing. And I said, I would drop the price $100,000 and sell it over asking. And they said, okay, come tomorrow. You can we'll sign the paperwork, it's yours. I was like, great. let me check I'm available. Um, and I signed that paperwork. I took the photos myself with my DSLR because I thought I was a little photographer at that moment. I wasn't. The cat was in every single photo. Like literally every bathroom, bedroom, kitchen, cat was like on the countertop, didn't matter. And I sold it I had an open house. I sold it the next day for $100,000 over asking, $200,000 over asking, which was crazy. And I was like, and of course I was on cloud nine. And then it was just sort of up from there. I did 12 million in the last 6 months of my first year. I doubled my business the second year. I doubled it again the third year, and started to build a team and started to do a lot of rentals, and it was awesome. And then that girl who I fell in love with, I moved out to California with because she was in tech, sort of left my team to do their thing. I was going to like coach and consult, and they're still doing really well. And now I'm here with Keller Williams, and being a team leader is kind of like the greatest role of all time.
So you're telling me that if I'm out there watching, I'm brand new into the business, and I'm not only putting in like the 9 to 5 and, working my butt off, it's okay if it takes 6 months, and I can still build a great career over the next 5, 6 years, even if in the first little while it may not look so pretty.
In all honesty, there were moments in the first 6 months where I was having conversations like, I have to quit, like I have to go get a full-time job just to support my ability to even sell real estate. So I think there's a misconception that once you have your real estate license, you now have the opportunity to sell real estate. And that's just simply not the case. Like once you have your real estate license, you have earned the right to learn how to sell real estate. And that requires more time. And, just because you have your license doesn't mean you know how to sell a piece of real estate. Because the showing a property is easy. I mean, anybody can show a property. It's when it comes down to negotiating on behalf of your client where you need to know your stuff. So I think it's unrealistic to say, I shouldn't say it's unrealistic. That's me putting limits on somebody else. But because there are agents in our office here who've closed 6 deals their first month. So anything is possible. Probability wise, it takes more time for you to learn how to do that. So yes, I think that anybody who gets a real estate license can be successful in the first year in real estate if they don't take on if they understand that no one's waiting for them to arrive and that it's their job to get business.
And speaking of challenges, I don't think it was made any easier for you once you stepped into the team leader role, because then you were handed this market center, which had been like beaten and battered and like left for dead behind an alley behind the 7-Eleven. And they were all of a sudden, they were like, Joey, make it work, make it pretty again. And you stepped in and you're like, great. So walk us through kind of what that looked like and your lessons learned in the last, what would you say, 2 years?
Yeah, almost 3 now at this point. It was just crazy. I don't want to say I was sold a bill of goods because I wasn't, but I was told that I was taking over the #1 office in the region. I was told that it was like the crown jewel of offices. And at one point, like 2 years before I came, it absolutely was. 350 agents, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in profit, and a really great culture. And, through a bunch of misfortunes, it ended up not being that way anymore. And so I had to sort of stop the bleeding before I could work on any growth. And I think that's a metaphor for a lot of people's lives, is like they have to sort of get their stuff together before they can plan to grow. But I ended up firing like 14 agents and half my staff because the drama that was oozing out of people from the past was seeping into anything we built for the future. And so we just had to let people go and say, like, it's not you, it's that we're just not a good fit. Our values don't align any longer. And the vision for this company and where we want to go requires that our values are in alignment. And you're not a bad person, you just don't fit in this space anymore. And I think doing that did 2 things. One, it eliminated a lot of the problem, and it showed that people who act that way are going to be booted. And the second thing it did is that it showed the people who stayed that they made the right choice. Now, of course, that sounds all good. It was a lot more difficult than what that sounds like, but I do think that it made a huge impact. And then the other thing was, and no one told me that it was difficult to recruit top agents. Like no one at any point said like, oh, it's going to be really hard for you to get a $10 million producer. I just, $10 million to me was like survival money. So I was like, oh, I'm just talking to survivors at this point. So people who like are making enough money to live and survive and call themselves an agent. So it was easy for me to talk to a 20, 30, $40 million producer because I resonated with them better. And it was more difficult for me to talk to a $5 million producer because I've never met anybody busier than an agent who closes 2 deals a year.
Well, you have to be really busy because if something happens to any one of those two deals, all of a sudden your production just got cut in half.
Yeah, 50% gone.
Um, cool. So obviously 2020 has been a dumpster fire to, you know, say the
It's the
least.
longest decade of my life.
Yeah, it's like still mid-March, but somehow almost the end of the year.
Yeah.
And
I'm
every
telling
day's
people it's March 50th.
yeah, every day's a Monday, it feels like. So what advice do you have for other leaders, for agents who are there right now, developing themselves, developing their businesses in responding to crisis and responding to when everything else kind of seems to be, like I just described, like a dumpster fire?
Yeah, I think that's the question that everyone is answering, and I'm not going to pretend that my answer is the only right answer, but I think being in this role gives you an interesting perspective for an agent because I'm not just looking at my own business. I'm trying to look at every agent's business from brand new, nothing in the pipeline to mega agent with 15 closings a month and the people in between. I think, and I've said this at team meetings, so this is nothing new, but I think the middle group of agents, the middle 60% of agents are going to be the ones who are affected most negatively. I think the bottom agents who are growing are going to have opportunity because they have the most amount of support typically. And top agents are thriving right now because business is like, it's like the whole windfall that didn't happen during COVID is now happening now. And they're getting, when they would have closed 2 transactions, they're closing 4 or 5. So that middle group of agents needs to buckle down, needs to like really, a lot of middle agents are referral-based realtors. And there's nothing wrong with that in a healthy market, but this is not a healthy market. And so those referral-based realtors need to switch to prospecting-based realtors really fast. They need to be actively on a daily basis, making calls, emails, text messages, actively asking for business because the top agents are receiving it because people are ready to buy or sell, and the middle agents aren't asking enough, so they're not getting it. So if I was a new agent or a new agent, I feel like dive into productivity coaching, dive into the accountability programs that are set in place for you. Middle agent, either go back. It's going to feel like going backwards, but it's not because it's going to push you forward. Go into productivity coaching, dive into the things that hold you accountable to the results, or just like do the thing that you know works over and over and over and over and over again. And for some of us, that was open houses, which we can't do anymore. For some of us, it was door knocking, which we can't do anymore. So you have to adjust. You have to adjust to a virtual environment, which is phone calls, text messages, emails, and follow-up.
And that's perfect because you segued right into my next question and we totally didn't plan this. So this is great. I was actually going to ask you about your perspective on how the business has changed, where it's becoming an uncentralized real estate experience, right? Where we no longer have to be, I mean, you're 30 feet away from me right now physically, yet we're doing this virtually so that we could record it. The quality is different. So
Yeah.
it's a very different normal that we're living in. So what is your perspective on the virtual model, and just expansion models, things like that?
So anybody who says that virtual doesn't work is wrong. Like we've proven now that we can run an entire market center virtually. Um, I choose to come into the office because I feel more productive. And that's really sort of where it segues is that, you know, I say this all the time, so you've heard this a million times, so forgive me, but there's a different sense of accountability in getting up, getting dressed, going to the office to work than there is in getting up, staying in your PJs and opening up your laptop while watching Netflix. There's just the amount of work and the quality of work that you can do when you focus your time in an office is just significantly higher than an individual's ability to focus their time at home. Because when you're at home, laundry comes up, you got to get food, you got to leave for coffee, your kids are in the background, your husband's trying to play, your wife's wondering what you're doing. Like there's just everything is there to distract you from the one thing which you need to be doing, which is lead generating. And in a physical office space, there's sort of an unspoken rule that we work in the office. So you're coming to work. And so while I do think that everything we do has been proven to be able to work virtually, I think that for those agents who are in the middle group, and even those new agents, and any agent, doesn't matter, actually showing up to a space and to do your accountability will help you bust through whatever is that ceiling. Because the agents at home, even if it takes 20%, even if 20% of your work time is given towards your kids or your wife or your husband or the dog or laundry or whatever it is, that 20% you gain back is the difference between a top producer and a mediocre producer. Does that make sense?
That's awesome. That makes total sense. So, I mean, that's the whole reason why I come into the office, right? My commitment to my coach is I have to be here by 8 a.m. every day, because I know if I'm here by 8 a.m. every day, I'm going to be more productive.
Yeah.
And then I can go home and work from home and have the dogs and the dishes and everything going awry once I've gotten the things I needed to get done.
Yeah.
All right, my last two questions for you. We hear a lot about the what's, the hows. I would rather ask you about two things, and you can thank Nikki Miller for this because she's awesome and she changed my question, and I love it because I love learning from others. Number one is your big why. So share with us, as a team leader, what gets you up every morning, and then instead of asking your goals, midterm, long-term goals, I want to hear about your who. Who do you envision yourself becoming, and how do you envision yourself 3 to 5 years down the line?
You know what's cool about this? I'm gonna kind of segue a little bit, but let me see if it's here. Hold on a sec. Yeah, it's right here. So here's what's crazy. Before, when I was in real estate, I never set goals. I thought they were ridiculous. I was like, these are limitations. Goals are limitations. I don't want to do that. And then I took Bold, and Bold was like, oh yeah, you could set some goals. So in Bold, you write a letter to yourself, and then they mail it to you in a freaking year, which is so cool. And here's what I wrote down. I said, in a year, I've accomplished so many things personally. I got a significant raise in pay. That happened. I was offered ownership in 2 separate market centers. That happened. I started selling real estate. That hasn't happened yet, but I still sell real estate in New York. My total income is the highest it's ever been. That happened. And there's room for growth. That also happened. Personally, I've lost over 40 pounds. I've lost 60 pounds. I'm still in a healthy and happy relationship with Rachel. I am still in a healthy and happy relationship with my girlfriend. And I'm looking to purchase my first home. I just bought my first house a month ago. I was invited to be on a panel for Family Reunion 2020, which I'm told might happen. And I see a massive amount of opportunity for myself. I'm telling you guys, writing that down was like crazy cool. And then to read it, I have chills right now thinking about where I was when I wrote this and where I am now and what that means for my life. So when you ask what my big why is, my big why, I think is growth in internally and for those externally. And it's one of the reasons why I love this role so much, is because if I do this role really well, I knock growth out of the park. Like, because the byproduct of me being successful as a team leader is that my agents have what they need. My people who choose to be in business with me are supported and successful. And if I'm a rock star, then opportunity keeps coming to me for growth. So it's like a win-win-win-win-win. So my big why I get up out of bed every morning is because this company offers me more growth than anything else I've ever endeavored in my entire life, in every way imaginable. My mind grows more, my body grows less, my income grows more, my passive wealth grows more, my ability to coach, train, consult, teach grows more. All of that is there for me. It's unbelievable.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
What was the second part of your question? I'm so sorry.
The who. Who do you see yourself becoming?
Oh man, I say this all the time, but like this role, I actually get to change people's lives. Like I actually get to sit across from somebody, dive into what's working, what's not working for them, and then offer a solution that I truly believe will be a better solution for them, their families, and their future. So growth for me looks like being able to do that at a much higher level. Like my goal growth wise is to have so much passive wealth that giving isn't a chore, it's a requirement. That like the ability to like pay my niece's college tuition just like this. And if someone needs support in my family, to be like, you know what, I got you covered. And yeah, it's related to money, but it's not the money, it's what the money allows me to create for other people in my life. And I honestly, it's selfish because it makes me feel great.
That's so cool. Joey, thank you so much for jumping on the call and for sharing with
Yeah.
us. I love it. We'll have to definitely do a longer, more expanded one because I think we're onto some pretty cool things. And at the same time, thank you so much for pouring tons of value into us and into the region and into the agents watching this.
Anytime. You guys at UHG have a good thing going, and people deserve to know about it. So anything I can do to help you guys grow, more agents deserve to be in business with you guys than anybody else. So it's awesome.
I appreciate it. Thanks, bud.